Cruise ships, they hold no obligation to wait for you if you are late. They can leave without passengers and even their own crew who are late to return to the ship. So what would I suggest? It's not hard to find yourself having too much fun at the shore side that you can completely forget about your whole cruise that you have to return to. So what generally happens when you are lost for time and maybe just a little too far away from the ship? I don't want to say it, but at this point, you can just wave your cruise goodbye because there's absolutely no decision that will be made to come back for you. Unless, are you ready for it? Unless you can make your own travel arrangements. So let's rewind a bit here and put that situation into perspective. Imagine this, you are chilling laid out somewhere by a local beach and bar and you are in nothing but your swimsuit, your phone is packed away and your watches are completely tucked in your carry bag. Alright, now that you've got that pictured in your head, you can easily see where I'm heading with this. How you can easily fall for the trap and completely lose sense of time. You are now in a more relaxed state and there's nothing to worry about. But guess what? You paid for a cruise that is on a strict timeline that they themselves have to keep up with. And because of you, unfortunately, they are not for one going to miss their timeline for you. And even worse, spoil everyone else's trip on board. But that's just one case. How about this? What if you didn't intentionally plan to miss the ship? It could be for any other specific reason, maybe other than being a little too careless with your time. So what happens next? Does the ship wait for you? Okay, here are the scenarios in which the ship will only wait for you. First is, did the ship organize a shore excursion that ended up being late? Well, guess what? The ship has no right to leave you behind. And if they do, they must now take complete responsibility to try and get you back on board. However, what if you had already completed your shore excursion and then you decided to take a detour and spend some more time ashore? Now you're at fault. The ship will now leave you without hesitation. But not all hope is lost though, as there are some things you can do to save your trip. To make sure you are not late, here are the suggestions I would make. Always keep a check of the time you should be back on board. That's one. When you're ashore, at least be a little bit paranoid that you may miss the ship. Just a little bit of paranoid of being late can actually save your trip. This mindset is crucial as it gives you some sense of urgency to want to make it back on board on time. As crew members, this is our go-to method. We are always paranoid we are going to miss our shift or even worse, miss the ship completely, which is a huge nightmare for us as this can lead to immediate dismissal and us getting fired from our jobs. So a lot of times it really does come down to time management, even though things can happen shoreside you didn't expect. So always be sure to watch the time and plan ahead. A wise thing you can do is to just try and find maybe nearby crew hangout spots that are shoreside. These places are normally close by the ship and a lot of times packed with a lot of crew members, but sometimes can be a few distances away. So anywhere you are shoreside, always try to spot these crew hangout areas, especially if you will need some help getting back to the ship. But when it comes down to it though, and you do actually miss the ship, then you can feel like you've just entered some really deep hot water, and trust me, you can absolutely feel your heart jumping out of your mouth. So make sure you pay close attention to the ship's time and listen closely to any announcements on board. If you're a first-time visitor to some of these cruise ports, you might make some mistakes that you will not be aware of and mess up the all aboard time. This is why it's important for you to pay close attention to this and don't go too far away from the port, especially if it's your first time visiting these areas. Knowing what time you are working with is important because the ship will set an all aboard time when everyone is expected to be back on board, and this is different from the sail away time and usually about an half hour or so in difference. But this is the time the crew starts to break down and pull away the gangway, so this will be the noticeable sign that the ship is ready to leave the port. You can also expect on most occasions that the ship will spend maybe an extra 30 minutes to break down the gangway. However, this doesn't mean you shouldn't at least return back to the ship before the scheduled time. One thing you will recognize with experienced and smart cruisers is their unmatched ability to make real good judgment with their timing to be back on board. Sometimes even way before the ship is expected to leave, maybe at least an hour before the set time. They do this just in case they may run into unexpected delays ashore or any other issues going back to the pier. So if you go too far from the ship, just keep in mind those additional minutes you would need to make it back to the ship. If you arrive back at the pier only to see your ship sailing away, just make sure to find the nearest port agent if they you have your travel documents and anything else you may need. Then you are off to a good start, as you will need your passport and any other documents to fly to the ship's next destination, or in worst case scenario, back to your home. While the port agent can help you make and plan your travel arrangements, it will entirely be your responsibility to pay for any related travel expenses. So this will most likely burn your pocket a little bit, but if you can afford to be late, then you can afford all the other expenses that it comes with, and that may be any last minute airfares, finding hotels to stay, your own food, and not to forget any land transportation that you may require. If you've enjoyed the information from this video, I am now asking you to go ahead and leave a like. It helps a crew member out, and also comment below if you've ever been late to the ship, what did you do, and any other tips that you might want to share. It's Onique, your cruise employee, and I'm out.